well, I started on this path just because I wanted to really see I wanted to pull the curtain back. I wanted to see what was behind physical reality. Coming from my own and coming from years and years of studying many different traditions and practicing what works and what doesn't and kind of curating those into what I think are the simplest, the most potent, and the deepest to help somebody connect with their own soul and spirit. It's more awakening into an awareness and learning about yourself and creation in that fertile field of what's bigger than ourselves. You can't turn your mind off. Your mind it's not meant to be turned off. What you can do over time is transcend your mind.
In this episode, I speak with Catherine Corona. Catherine is a doctor in spiritual science, and she had a meditation and spiritual practice for over 60 years. She is a founder of Soul and Spirit, a daily spiritual practice program which includes 5 ancient sacred practices delivered to the participants every day. Dr. Corona is an award-winning filmmaker, singer, composer, and author. She has been an invited speaker at the University of Wyoming, Denver University, and Peace Theological Seminary and College of Philosophy. She has also appeared on different podcasts and has been a presenter on several yoga festivals. We have covered spirituality and awake insights several times already, but this time I really had the opportunity to speak with someone that has over 60 years of experience. It was really an interesting and enjoyable conversation, so I really recommend you to watch it till the end. And if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel or like or give a comment. It really helps us to grow our audience and to invite more interesting guests into the podcast. Thank you very much and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to the Awake Insights, Catherine.
Oh, good to be here, Henk. Thank you for having me.
So yeah, your bio says healer. You're a doctor in spiritual science. Actually, that's what it says. Yeah, tell me all about that. So, what is your work? What does your work entail? And why is it so important for you?
Well, really, I'm a student. I'm a student of sort of the ancient spiritual and mystical practices through all different religions, faith traditions, spiritual traditions. I've been a student of that for almost 50 years. And I think I started on this path just because I wanted to really see I wanted to pull the curtain back. I wanted to see what was behind physical reality. I knew really young that I felt like this was kind of an illusion here, walking through life. And I was looking for the deeper meaning, the deeper reality of existence.
Yeah.
And somehow I felt that at 5 years old. That's when I just kind of intentionally and consciously went, I want to know what's bigger than what I see in the world. And I want to know how I fit in that and what is bigger about me than what I can see and feel. I just felt that, like, that I was on the tip of the iceberg, and then there was this huge thing underneath that I wanted to explore and know and live this life doing that. I thought it was really the only thing I could think of that was worthy to do in this life.
Wow. It sounds like you got a certain kind of a gift or something, because if on that young age, like 5 years old, that you were destined actually to make a difference and develop some consciousness in our society or something. How do you see that, like, and how has that evolved over the years? Because after so many years now, discovered that at a young age. So I guess it sounds like it has been your mission. You were predestined to make that your mission. Can you Yeah, just talk a little bit about that journey for you, how that was, and how that impacted your life.
I think having the intention of wanting to know what was bigger than what was immediately, I could see, feel, hear, paved the way or opened the door for teachers to come and fascinating people to learn from. So what happened when I was 19, I moved to go to college, moved away from home, and I lived up on a ranch in Colorado up in the mountains. And I lived on this little apartment above the barn. This is 2-room apartment without running water, but there was a big ranch house. And in the big ranch house moved in some Sufi. Sufi is the esoteric um, small sect of Islam. And some people say it predates Islam. And it's
Hmm.
a tradition that practices what's called the sound current of God. The In Hinduism, the nod, the name. Um, in Sikhism, the holy name of God. It's just celestial melodies. And they practice in Hebrew, the voice of the heart. And they practice attuning to one of their practices to that vibrational frequency that creates all of creation. And there they were living right next to me. I mean, I didn't go seek it. There it was. I
Hmm.
was studying hard science in college. I was studying physics and chemistry and a pre-med track. And I
Hmm.
thought I'd either go into pre-med and become a doctor, or I'd do research biology. So I was studying, really tangible things that you create a hypothesis and measure things and, a scientific background. And then here were Sufis right next to me. So um, I didn't know what a spiritual teacher was at 19 years old. So the spiritual teacher that came to visit there, Rashad Field was his name. I didn't really revere him because I didn't know what a spiritual teacher was, or that he was internationally famous or any of these things. So I just talked to him like a regular person, and he just got a real big kick out of me and would just talk to me. And somehow I just kind of, the spirit inside me just sort of started resonating with this high spiritual frequency that he held. Then they moved out, and some people that were Lakota, some people that followed Lakota. Lakota is a Sioux Indian tribe in the United States, and they followed the Lakota spiritual traditions. And there was a medicine man that would come there and hold ceremonies, sweat lodges, pipe ceremony, and they would invite me. And again, I didn't know anything about this stuff other than there was some internal opening to find something bigger than myself. But there I was
Mm.
invited. I originally went just for the food because they'd have a feast after a sweat lodge. So I'm like, sure, I'll go for the feast potluck. I didn't it was all none of it was in English. It was all in the Lakota language. So I don't know what they were saying, but I caught the spirit. I caught the spirit of being in a sweat lodge
Yeah,
and the beauty of, I don't know if you've been in a sweat lodge, but it's a
Fabian.
just a, you have been.
Hmm. I hope you're enjoying this conversation so far. As you probably have noticed, the Awake Insights podcast is more than just a place for great conversations. It's part of something bigger, the True Impact Club. The True Impact Club is a supportive community for anyone who feels called to share an important message or story and wants to reach a bigger audience. Whether you're looking to step onto stages, get featured on podcasts, or simply amplify your voice, the True Impact Club is here to help. They don't only support you in preparing for these opportunities, but also ensure you have a seamless follow-up system in place. That way, when people are inspired by your message, you can connect with them, build meaningful relationships, and even turn those connections into clients. If this resonates with you, or you want to find ways to make a bigger impact, you can find free resources on the website you can find here below. Thank you very much, And let's go back to the conversation.
So, that is, and they're all different. I've been to many sweat lodges now with different medicine men. Um, but they are all a little bit different. But it can be such a beautiful, transformative experience of just
Mm.
clearing out your mind, clearing out your body. Um, so, yeah, and
So yeah,
so
but these, yeah, no, yeah, it sounds like amazing experiences. But what do you call these communities, or you called it a real sect, or what do you call this group of people? And how many were they
well,
mostly?
there was no formal name. I mean, these were just people that had studied different spiritual traditions. One was the Lakota, and they would invite this Lakota medicine man to. He would stay with them, and then he would hold ceremonies. Ceremonies because his father was in Denver. His father's name was John Fire Lame Deer. He wrote Lame Deer's Secret Visions. He was a
Hmm.
famous book on different Lakota spiritual practices, and so that's what he was there for. Archie Fire Lame Deer was the son who was also a medicine man in that tradition. So these
Hmm.
ceremonies were held for a specific reason, for healing of a man who was in the transition process. Um, and just people. So no formal name. There was no sect. There was no formal community. They just invited me because I lived on the land.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, and what was their purpose of being there, and were they also acquiring more people to make that bigger or not? Or I just try to understand what their purpose is, and if they still exist today.
Well, there's certainly Lakota medicine men that exist today. And
Hmm.
there are certainly ceremonies, even more than there ever have been, that are
Hmm.
going on. I've participated, it's been a few years, it was before the COVID, but I finally got invited to what's called a Sundance. This is the big ceremony, it's in July, about third week of July. Um, and that's their very big sacred ceremony. It goes on for 4 days, 4 nights. Um, Many ceremonies are going on. And of course, the Sufi tradition is ancient, ancient, ancient. Um, many Sufis in Persia. What was Persia? Turkey. Um,
Mm.
the
So
whirling
what?
dervishes. You may have seen the whirling dervishes. That's a Sufi sect. No,
Okay. No.
Rumi was a Sufi.
Mm.
Some people may
Okay.
know the poetry of Rumi,
Yeah.
Hafiz. Um,
Okay.
so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know so much about that specifically. But so they were practicing spiritual ceremonies, what you say. So what was their belief, and or what is their belief if they're still there out there, and their mission? What are they trying to do?
I don't think it's quite like that they're trying to do anything. What I've found in a lot of spiritual traditions is there's sort of a fertile ground laid in some of the ancient practices that a person can decide to try and see if it can bring you individually into your own soul, that part that is eternal, that part
Hmm.
that exists beyond this body, that part that also it can be awake and aware of that which is greater than ourselves, beyond the physical existence. So there's not like a logical, sort of empirical or linear purpose to any spiritual path. It's more awakening into an awareness and learning about yourself and creation in that fertile field of what's bigger than ourselves and what's eternal.
Mm.
So it's more of a state of being, a beingness in awareness, than a
Yeah.
state of doing or having a mission or having a purpose. And each
Mm.
person has their own individual calling that may be very loud and bright, or it may be a still small voice that kind of brings you to the threshold or to the door of your own inner awakening or awareness, if you
Mm.
choose to do that. But
Mm.
I really think, I don't think I've ever met a person that hasn't had a glimmer of what is bigger than themselves. It
Mm.
could be in nature, could be an attunement there in nature where a person comes into this deep peace and stillness. And in that stillness has a moment of knowing, oh, there's something way bigger than me, way bigger than this, way bigger than my mind, than my feelings and my body. And I'm a part of that.
Yeah.
And some people, that's good enough. One little moment of it is good enough in life. And life goes on in ordinary ways. And for other people, that little glimmer that comes to meet them kicks off a journey, of like a really a great adventure of exploration into what makes each person, what makes yourself tick, what is
Yeah.
awareness. So these practices, whether it's Lakota, Sufi, esoteric Christianity, esoteric Judaism, whatever is the depth, or being in nature, or whatever it is, Hinduism, whatever it is, some of these techniques and tools have been developed over centuries,
Yeah.
and they work.
Yeah.
They work. Meditation brings you to stillness, or can. Chanting some of the great sacred tones. Om, of course, many people are familiar with that from yoga. Om. Sufis use hue. I like hue. These are
Yeah.
like a tuning fork, a vibration, a vibratory frequency that can attune you into something greater than yourself. And
Mm.
then you just listen and rest in the beingness of that.
Yeah. If you say that these things work, what do you mean exactly with that?
Practicing anything, just the old metaphor of, if you go to the gym and you want to get stronger, let's say you want to build your bicep, and you go 3 times a week and you do a practice of that exercise program of
Yeah.
that, you're going to get
And you see
stronger.
result. Yeah, you see
You're going to
result.
see
Yeah, exactly.
results.
But
It's
that's physical.
pretty
That's
much,
easy. Yeah.
spiritually, it's easy too.
Okay.
It's the
Tell me.
easiest. It's way easier than the physical. It's way easier than the physical
Well, you don't
because,
see it, so it's difficult to see if someone is spiritual
ah,
and how much someone is spiritually developed. Like physically, it's easy to see how hard someone trains and how much muscle someone has. But spiritually, is something different.
right, because we're not used to looking. Now, if you look, so you pay attention to the
Hmm.
method you use. Let's say you want to expand your awareness and you want to come into an awareness of what is eternal, let's say. So you develop a practice of an awareness type of meditation. There's so many different kinds of meditation, right? There's meditations just to calm your body. There's meditations to watch your mind, like some of the
Hmm.
Buddhist meditations to watch your mind. There's meditations where you work with a mantra that resonates at a certain frequency to take you into the eternal. That's what I practice.
Hmm.
Um, and if you pay attention, just like you went to the gym and you go, okay, here's where I am now. Right now, I have a hard time sitting down. Even for 2 minutes, my mind starts driving me crazy and thinking about the grocery list and what I've got to do and traffic and who bugs me and what I'm irritated and how I'm just, and your mind just does all this. And then your emotions kick in and you go, this is where I'm starting.
Hmm.
And then you practice a meditation practice, focusing on your breath, listening to your heartbeat, finding a sacred tone that you like the vibration of, listening to it, then being quiet, being still, listening to what's beyond that tone, moving into the beingness of who you are, moving from the beingness of who you are into the beingness of existence, being there,
Hmm.
coming back into the physical. Do it every day or even 3 days a week. In a month, now go back. How do I feel? What's my mind doing? How resilient am I to disturbances? What
Hmm.
has kicked off in my intuition? What wisdoms all of a sudden am I? And you just pay attention.
Hmm.
So now you might be used to, just like in a gym, you can kind of see the physical results of working on your bicep. You will see the physical, mental, emotional, and awareness results of practicing an ancient spiritual practice. And you may find, just like you go to the gym, all right, that weight, now I need a bigger weight. So you adjust your practice as you go. Same thing
Hmm.
with spiritual practices. You go, well,
Yeah.
that's not, I want to try something different. Let me try that. And you kind of work as a spiritual scientist to see what works for you, what doesn't work with you. Sometimes just going for a walk in silence on my own connects me with something way bigger than myself.
Yeah. Just a quick note. I want to share something that might be valuable for those who are looking to grow their brand or their business. The True Impact Agency is a digital marketing team that supports you in building everything from marketing funnels, landing pages, to ad campaigns and custom websites. Their focus is equipping you with the right strategies and systems to elevate your business and presence. If that sounds interesting, visit True Impact Agency to learn more and book a free consultation call. It's a great opportunity to clarify your goals and take meaningful steps forward. And let's go back to the conversation.
And
Is it?
that's simple.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there are so many ways to practice that, and so many different techniques, and so many different modalities. But you talk a lot about being connected with that higher self. Is it a purpose to be connected with that higher self all the time, or is that something you do? How do you say, like, sometimes actually to be connected and to learn from it, or to download some information or things like that. So, what is the real purpose behind that?
We're always connected to our higher self or our higher consciousness or our soul or our spirit. We're always connected to that. We can't not be connected to that. But
Hmm.
being aware of the connection is is what we may want to practice if you want to gain awareness into what is greater than yourself. And ultimately it leads, what is the purpose of that? Ultimately all these practices lead to liberation and freedom in your own existence, an awareness of great wisdom. There are fields of energy to connect with, fields in spiritual realms to be a part of and open to and know and live in.
Hmm. So by being connected, it gives you insights of certain things that are maybe blocked inside of you that you're not conscious about, and that you then can unblock, and that's the freedom you talk about.
Oh,
Is
that's
that
an
what it
interesting
is?
question. You're on it. What happens what does happen, this path is not for the faint of heart. It takes the
Hmm.
courage, because what happens is what you're talking about is that as you practice greater awareness and spiritual awakening, is that you will come up against your
Hmm.
limiting beliefs, issues that aren't balanced or healed. They say, there's a saying, it takes great courage to see the face of God, because first you have to see your own face.
Yeah.
So as you travel this path of awareness, you'll run up against what blocks you from awareness,
Yeah.
right? So if you go to the gym, I know this is a simplistic metaphor, but if you go to the gym, you're probably going to go up against those days where you don't feel like going to the gym, or
Sure.
you just, something gets in the way, or I've got to handle my oh, I've got taxes on my mind right now. I can't go. I got to get the work done for the taxes because there's a deadline there. Or somebody's asking for me. They really need me. A million excuses, right?
Yeah.
So you come up against those. At least I do. If I have an physical exercise, which I do, program, I come up against all the things that make me not want to do the physical exercise program. Then I get to work through them. And eventually they don't, over time, they don't pull me off of that. I get stronger in my purpose. Same thing with the spiritual path, is that you will come up against your limiting beliefs, whatever they are. And it can be simple. I don't have time for this. My mind is driving me crazy. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not worthy of that. You start getting to the bigger issues. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not worthy of this. I can't see that kind of wisdom. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not, and then you learn, at least I have in the path that I've been on, to notice them, accept them. Don't try to change them. That doesn't really work. But
Mm.
accept it and then just keep going.
Yeah. So your work, if I understand, is mainly focused on meditation. Is that correct?
I think there are many different spiritual practices. Meditation is probably key.
Yeah, but I mean your work, what you teach.
Oh, I put together a daily spiritual practice program of 5 different spiritual practices. One being guided meditation and stillness. Coming from my own and coming from years and years of studying many different traditions, and then and practicing what works and what doesn't, and kind of curating those into what I think are the simplest, the most potent, and the deepest to help somebody connect with their own soul and spirit.
Okay, let's go a little bit deeper into that. So what have you learned from this, and what are for you the things that are really working for people?
Taking moments, and it will grow. A lot of people will say to me, I just can't meditate. I can't sit still. I hear that a lot. Or my
Yeah.
mind just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah,
And
true.
I think the misconception is you have to turn your mind off. You
Mm.
can't turn your mind off. Your
Mm.
mind it's not meant to be turned off. That will never happen. So I think people start with a misconception. What you can do over time is transcend your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your mind. I like mantra meditations or using a tone. I like the hue tone. You can use hue. You can use any word you like. You can use the word God. I've practiced lately using the word loving because I wanted to see where that energy, that field of loving, not romantic loving, but the kind of loving of caring and nurturing and wishing for the well-being of myself and others. Where would that lead me if I moved into the energy field of
Yeah.
compassion and empathy? So I started chanting just the word love
Mm-hmm.
and let myself resonate to it. And then, so you can choose any word you like. Some of the ancient Sanskrit words have, throughout time, they're ancient. They have a certain vibrational frequency. That's the Om, the hue. And then you chant them inwardly or outwardly, but inwardly, and then be quiet and listen and let your soul and your spirit come and awaken you into a greater awareness. And if your mind starts intruding and talking to you and being a monkey mind again, chant your tone, focus it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
practice of mastering your focus. Over time, the mind does get quieter, but that's not the intention in the way I have practiced spiritual exercises and meditation, because it just happens organically.
Yeah.
If I say, don't think of pink elephants,
Mm.
what do? You can't
Yeah.
not think of pink elephant. So I say to myself, I want to quiet my mind. What happens? My mind does not become quiet. But
Mm.
if I chant an inner tone, a sacred tone, or any word that I want, for that matter, hopefully a high word, high consciousness
Yeah.
word, um, my mind organically will start to get quieter and start to leave me alone. And then I can be open more to intuitional awareness, greater wisdom, guidance. And what does that do in everyday life?
Mm.
To me, in everyday life, it gives you a certainty on your purpose. It gives you a great experience of who you truly are beyond your
Mm.
mind, emotions, body. It gives you a place in creation in the universe. You get to feel like you know your place, a sense of belonging, not to mention greater wisdom, guidance. At the same time it will transform your life. A spiritual practice, a meditation practice will transform your life, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Mm.
So the highs, what used to be my highs in life are now my lows.
Mm.
So you're, in my experience, my level of uplifted emotions, feeling happy
Mm.
is just kind of off the charts now.
Mm.
Because in your soul and spirit, those places are happy, content, blissful, even in ecstasy, even in
Yeah.
the awareness who we really are. We get bogged down on this planet. That's what
Mm.
it's meant to do.
Mm.
This place is meant for challenges, hurdles, everything to strengthen ourselves. If you can be joyful and happy in the
Mm.
midst of having cancer, you've graduated to a very high consciousness.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting, and it's it's a long journey, right? If you're doing this more than 50 years, I can imagine that um, you've grown all the time. But you have this pyramid, where you can grow in different stages and levels, and the highest one is like the self actualization. um, how many years do you need actually to go in that stage of self actualization, and do you find yourself in there, and how does that feel, and what does that mean?
Oh, that's such a good question. Everybody's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's so different. Um, it took me to practice the sound current, the nod, or it's also called Shabda Yoga. Sometimes the voice in Hebrew, as I mentioned before, the voice of the heart, listening to the celestial melodies and hearing them. And then some people feel them, some people hear them, some people see the colors. It took me 10 years before I even got a glimpse of it. Although I knew it was there from study. It took me 10 years, and I told this girlfriend of mine about the sound current, and she goes, "Oh, does it sound like this?" She knew it instantly.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 10 years. So I guess I'm on, yes, 50 years. I guess I'm really slow. I'm a slow student. But some people are just there instantly. So the
Mm-hmm.
answer is everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things I did to, one of the things when you're practicing awareness in the higher spiritual realms beyond the physical, there's no reference points there. So you enter those realms through stillness, through meditation, um, and there's no reference points. So for 25 years, as soon as I came out, felt myself in my chair after meditation time, I would write down the sights, sounds, impressions, experiences in those inner spiritual realms.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have reference points, right? Because they're not physical, they're spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what they are until you start getting used to them. I mean, that took me 25 years. Now, I want to tell you that not to discourage people, because again, I mean, that's a long time, but I don't know what else you do with your life, other than make your living and have your relationships and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, that was the great adventure. The inner world is the great world to explore. It's the greatest world to explore. And I love to travel too. I like to go to different countries, but the inner world, oh my gosh, what an adventure. You know, I don't know if I should say this, but I will. It's because I just said that. And then people go, well, what are you talking about? You can travel to the very edge of existence and know it. You can go
Mm-hmm.
to the places where there is formlessness being created into form
Mm.
and see that and know that. That's
Okay.
breathtaking.
And how do you do
You,
that?
you practice stillness and meditation, traveling up through the levels of consciousness, coming up to the chakra that's here in the center of your forehead. There's an open door here at the center of your head. These are the open doors, and then they take you outside of your body into your soul. You actually have a vehicle, a body that is your
Mm-hmm.
soul. It's not bogged down by the physical form, and you can travel the spiritual realms, and then practice opening your awareness, opening your spiritual eyes there, and seeing the sights and sounds, and all existence is
Yeah.
available to you.
Have
That's
you
a great
tried many?
adventure.
Yeah, it sounds like, yeah, definitely. Yeah, sounds like a big journey. I'm wondering actually over those all those years, have you tried yeah, other things next to meditation? Because there are many other modalities these days that we can do. We even can explore plant medicine to explore the deeper areas within ourselves. So I'm a bit curious because it seems like, yeah, you're very into meditation for a long time. You're also teaching other people to do the same. Um, how would you compare that with some other modalities that you might have tried?
Well, I grew up in the 70s. So it was the world of LSD and mescaline
Mm,
and mushrooms. And I tried all of that. And I was not satisfied with it. I knew something wasn't quite right for me. I know it
mhm,
opens the door for a lot of people to awarenesses that they don't have in everyday life. But for me, it was like, I don't want to have to rely on something outside of myself
mhm,
for any kind of transcendental experience.
mhm,
Why would I want to do that? That just seems, I don't know. It didn't seem right to me. And I remember asking a girlfriend, although I tried all of it, believe me, it was the 70s. That's what people did. It was everywhere.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and I remember saying talking to a girlfriend of mine who had a really deep meditation practice, and I knew that. And I said, have you ever tried LSD and some of the psychedelics? And she said, why would I do that? I already see all that stuff.
yeah,
And I thought, yeah, that's what I want.
mhm,
And what I learned having a spiritual exercise meditation practice and having done plant medicine way back in the day, the plant medicine didn't go very high. It just doesn't go
okay,
very high. But you won't know that until you go very
mm,
high. It'll
mhm,
seem really high. It'll seem so like, oh my gosh, this is mind blowing my mind, except it doesn't go very high. So, in the love, and I just know that from my own experience, having done
mm,
that and then having done transcendental or soul transcendent meditations,
mhm,
it leaves you, it can all look very beautiful. And I think it's a trap, because I think it can leave some people thinking, wow, this is it, this is everything. And it's just not. It's kind of what is called more the lower astral. If you, in metaphysical terms, right, we have levels of consciousness. We have our physical
Mm-hmm.
body, we have our astral body that's just beyond the physical.
Mm-hmm.
Imagination, we have our emotional body, etheric body, which is subconscious, unconscious. This is metaphysical, no, awareness. And then we hit up against what's called the cosmic mirror. This is where you were brought it up, where, what about the blocks? The cosmic mirror is just this level of consciousness that you bump up against when you're traveling the inner worlds, and it reflects yourself back. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
like there's an opening there, and then you can go up into the soul realms, spiritual realms. Some of the plant medicine, all the plant medicine when I was doing it, and I didn't do it for long. I did it like I did each of those different things once, and I knew it wasn't the way to go for me. Um, but it's what's called lower astral, which is beautiful, can be. It can also
Yeah.
be scary. It's not very high, but it masquerades as very high, and you can get stuck there. You can get stuck there because it's vast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting perspective, and it shows that yeah, the experiences are for everyone very different. The dialogue about psychedelics is it's today like quite active, I would say. So it's becoming more and more popular. It's also yeah getting more into opportunities to being approved by some governments and all these kind of things as modalities or for healing purposes. So it shows that there is an evolution going on and an evolution happening. But if your experience is that yeah, it's not going that high, and in comparison with the meditation that you teach, then I ask myself like, if you have someone that know what meditation is and already practiced that for some time in their life, but they never reached that stage that you were talking about, what would someone actually do to go into these higher states, and how long would that take to do that?
Well, don't we all want the instant fix? That's why I think psychedelics are really popular. It's like you can get a pretty extraordinary experience, at least in my experience, right off
Well,
the
yeah, it's
bat.
easy. You don't really have to practice many things. Although I ask myself the question if the effect of psychedelics is different when you are like, yeah, not very spiritual, or when you already are on your journey for a certain amount of time. I could imagine that it's then you can have a different experience, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm just curious about what
Well,
someone should do actually to get in those transcendental stages that you talk about in meditation for people, because there are a lot of people actually that don't want to go into psychedelics, and they have the same opinion that's what you have. I don't want to use some external substances and everything to heal myself. So that's why I think many people can be interested in what you teach, and going into
hmm,
that other level of meditation, and to learn how can you do that, and how many years do I need actually to do that to get there.
some people will get there instantly. Some people will get there instantly, and some people will. It'll take many years.
And
Everybody's so different.
is it a special technique that you use, or can you explain that a little bit, how it works? I guess is also a daily practice, like what I think most people recommend to do for meditation. So how does that look like?
Do you want me to give you a little demonstration for some really simple meditation technique in a minute?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll
In a
show you.
minute, you can do that.
Yeah, I'll show you. It doesn't have to be long. So
Okay.
just bring your attention to your heart.
Do I have to put my hand there, or yeah? Okay.
No, I guess I just do because I I like feeling it, being
Yeah, yeah.
kinesthetic. You don't
Okay.
have to. But you can feel the heartbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and you can try to start to hear it, if you can hear it, and bring your awareness into your breath. And then let your breath bring your awareness and your intention right in the center of your forehead and a little ways back, kind of where the pineal gland would be, if you know where that is. And there in that center is an opening. You might see some colors. You might hear or feel a sound. And just take a moment to breathe into it. And let that peace fill you. Feel the stillness there inside yourself. Open to whatever you may hear, see, feel, hear. And bring your awareness back to your breath, back to your heart, and back to your chair, and back to yourself. And whenever you're ready, you can come back to this consciousness. And so it just takes a few moments. How
Mm-hmm.
do you feel?
Yeah, very present. And I think also during the exercise, I felt really still and just present, centered. Yeah.
So it's very simple. And I do that every morning before I even get out of bed because I want to
Mm.
start my day like that. And I also want to open my spiritual ears, that intuitive part to the wisdom in that still place, and just listen if there's any wisdom for me for the day, guidance, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's just the sound current that I spoke of. And I just don't get out of bed till I find that still place, because that's the way I want my day to go. I want it to be, I want myself to be uplifted in that. And then I usually take some time in the afternoon to just really dedicate myself to I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour for me. Um, um, I also, and I don't want to scare people away, but a couple times a year, I'll do 4 days, all day, all night, doing just what I showed you. And I'll just
4 days in
stay
a
in
row,
the,
like continuously
hmm?
4 days, like
Yeah,
4 days in a row,
and night. Yes. And I
and
just stay
night, nothing
at night
else.
because you won't need to sleep much. Yeah.
Wow.
And, stop to eat, stop to do whatever chores I have because I live on a farm. I have to feed horses and stuff, but mostly stay in that state for 4 days, 4 nights. I'll do that a couple times a year. You know,
So you don't
that,
eat and you don't drink. It's like fasting at the
yes,
same
I will
time.
eat and drink a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And I'll doze off a little bit, but mostly you don't really need to sleep, and you just stay in that expanded awareness. I do not
Yeah.
drive, though, I'll tell you that. I tried that once. I backed out of my driveway before I came fully back into my body, and I hit a car immediately. I just was not really present in the physical world.
Mm.
But every day, the other thing, some of the high Buddhist practitioners I know, they don't do external substances. Some of the high Hindu practitioners, and I don't know any of those people that have been practicing a long time that do any kind. Because you asked, what if you had a practice and then you did those substances? You
Yeah.
wouldn't. You never would. They bring you down lower. They bring
Mm.
you lower. They don't bring you higher. And I don't know anybody that is practicing for a long, long time. And I'll tell you this, you won't know people that have been practicing spiritual practices for a long, long time. They're as ordinary as anything. They're not going to talk about it.
They're
I'm
not going to
talking
talk about
about
it.
it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it, but most people don't.
No, it's true. But I've been in some communities and some environments where a lot of spiritual people come together, and I feel if someone really has done the work. It's
Yeah.
I feel just the energy and the vibration when I'm talking and when I'm in front of someone. I notice it on the eye contact,
Mhm.
and on the state of being of someone. I really notice that. Yeah,
Mm. That's beautiful. And isn't that the people you want to be around?
of course.
Those,
So,
yeah,
yeah, exactly, totally, and then that's the people that inspire you, and then and you also want to be like that as well. I yeah, I want to be
that's
like that as
another,
well, because
yeah,
I feel how it rises me up as well. So if I'm in a certain vibrational state and I'm in touch with someone that maybe is a little bit on a higher frequency or something like that, you try to synchronize, try to come together. So it's uplifting.
absolutely. It's like the tuning fork. When someone's
Yeah,
really, you meet somebody in the highest state of consciousness, which really is this loving state of consciousness, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Peaceful consciousness, peaceful being, loving, meaning they're very caring and compassionate, and but not necessarily gushy, but
Hmm.
just that you're seen, that you're cared for, that you're accepted with people that are have risen to that.
You notice that also when someone speaks, also someone's behavior. If you really have conversation with someone, then you also notice it on the choices that they make in life. The also sometimes the boundaries that someone can set. So it's just it shows that how conscious someone really is, and how that really has an impact on all aspects of life basically. And that's beautiful. I
Mm.
notice that within myself too. I notice my evolution as well. And then if I'm in touch with other people that also have done the work and still doing the work, then I can also relate to that, and yeah, touch base on that. It's not really comparing, but it's still like, yeah, okay, where am I, where are we meeting? So I really love that. And I
Yeah.
guess you have the same with all your experience.
The when I used to go to these seminars at this I met this woman, and I was so young. I was like 18 or 19, and as well as living up in the mountains next to in the big house next to these Lakota people and Sufi people. And I met this woman, and I just couldn't get in. She resonated with that expansive beauty and peace and loving. And she was just, I mean, she was simple and ordinary, but yet there was something about her. And I went,
Mm,
what? I couldn't get enough. I just wanted to be around her all the time. And, again, I was studying the hard sciences, and I was like, what is it about you?
mm,
And this is also the person that I asked about, do you do LSD and all these psychedelics? And she was like, no, why would I do that? I already see everything that people tell me
mm.
they see with those drugs. So why would I? So, but yeah. And then she had a picture of, I said, who is that on her wall? And she said, that's my spiritual teacher. And at the time I just rolled my eyes, I was like, spiritual teacher, what, I don't get what that is. I don't know what that is. I don't want to know what that is. And yet I found myself like, wonder what he teaches. His name was John Roger, and he was a sound current teacher also. And
Hmm.
so I studied with him, and then being around him was being around pure loving in the most
Can you
ordinary, simple way. So, yeah.
yeah, can you talk a little bit about that sound? How do you call that, sound and
Oh, the
something?
sound
You
current?
Yeah, the sound current. Yeah, exactly. I think we didn't dive into that yet. So can you explain a little bit what that is and how you practice that?
Yeah, it's an ancient terminology. It's also called the celestial melodies, the unstruck
Hmm.
melody, a lot of words for it, the unstruck melodies, the, I've mentioned this before, but the voice of the heart.
Yeah.
It's practiced in Shabda yoga. It's also called the Nam. It's also called Nada yoga.
Hmm.
It's you read about the different sounds in the Vedas, the ancient Hindu scripture. Um, so when you the meditation practice that I practice is a sound current meditation. There's it's a how do you explain? How do you explain something spiritual in the physical? But you can experience it. Okay, so some people hear this, and there are different sounds on different levels of consciousness. You
Hmm.
might hear it's a real quiet, it can be a real quiet sound, or you can feel it. It feels like a current, like you jumped in a river, a gentle, warm, slow river. And
Yeah.
it's this that's the feel of it. And the sound of it can have many sounds: the sound of a flute, the sound of violins, the sound of buzzing. It depends on the level of consciousness. And it can absorb you in the
Mm.
beauty that is so exquisite. You know, once you hear it or experience it, however a person experiences it, you'll never be the same. And you can't really go
Mm.
back. I mean, I guess you can, but you won't want to ever go back. Um, and it will carry you into
Okay.
as a flow of energy into we just did a little bit out of it. You can access it in the little 1 minute meditation stillness practice I did. um, and then take that practice and listen or feel, or sometimes people see the colors, and then you don't have to do anything. You just let it
Yeah.
carry you. It's a river. It's a current. And it
Mm.
is, think about it this way: if there's a creator that takes unformed, um, creates substance out of nothingness,
Hmm.
that's everything is done out of vibration,
Yeah.
right? Quantum physics, string
Yeah.
theory, it's all done with vibration of frequency.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the frequency of creation. That's what the sound current is. And you
Mm.
can hear it, feel
Okay.
it, see it, and let it take you into the magnificence and the ecstasy and the bliss
Mm.
of creation and of who
Mm.
you are within that creation, into the very
Okay.
form from which the very, in theosophy, they call it the spark of God. Your spark, where you were created
Yeah.
first.
Mm. Yeah.
This is the practice of sound current meditation, or practicing
Okay.
Shabda yoga, or practicing Nada yoga.
And that's what
I
you
think it's
also
the
teach.
highest. Pardon?
And that's what
Say
you
it
also
again.
teach. That's what you
Well,
also
I'm
teach,
not.
right?
I'm not really a teacher. I'm really a student. I'm just chatting about my experiences. I put together something for people if you want to try it. Um, but I'm not a sound current teacher per se. I'm not that good. I mean, I'm not that high. I'm a student that's been doing it for 50 years. But but that doesn't mean I can. I don't know. I wouldn't claim that for myself. I can talk about it, and I experience it, and I practice it every day. And
Hmm.
I just invite people to go on that adventure. But there are
So,
great teachers. John
so,
Roger was a great teacher. There are great Sufi teachers: Rumi, Kabir, um, you know,
so
some of
how
the
many how
Hindu
many years
practices.
did they need? How many years did they need? If you needed 50 years to still be a student, so how many years did they need then?
Everybody's different, Hank. I can't tell you. Everybody's different. And there are
Yeah.
people born here that are born with this. There are
Mm.
people that don't need any years. They
Yeah.
are born awake and aware. They hear the sound of God, or whatever you want to call it, divinity,
Mm.
their
Yeah.
soul. They come here. I have a friend, a Rinpoche friend, and we were going to do a talk up at the University of Wyoming. We're driving 2.5 hours. We're driving, and he said, there are many Buddhas, meaning enlightened beings, people
Hmm.
that are enlightened. Many, many, many enlightened beings on this planet
Yeah.
that exist with us,
No, yeah, for sure. That's
for
totally true.
sure.
And like what something I came up a few times in this conversation is like also in the beginning when you were talking about those communities or those sects or whatever you call them. So yeah, it starts all by yourself and going on our own journey of self-discovery, using different techniques for that, different ways. But 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 on the other hand, we live in a society, and I'm curious. A lot of people that going into their own journey and they discover a lot of things about themselves. They develop um, that willingness to also help other people. They also
Hmm.
start to ask many questions about life, about humanity, about society, and they also start to develop that willingness to help society and to support society, to change the world and to change this and all kind of things. So I'm wondering, I haven't noticed that in our conversation here, how that if that's something that you have as well, or that you ever had as well during your own journey. But also these communities you talked about, I also didn't hear that their mission, for example, is to inspire people, to inspire other people and communities and society to also do more self-reflection and also to solve problems in life and in the world. So what is your stance on that?
Well, that's exactly what happens in this journey is as you get filled up with the spirit, as you work through your blocks, the overflow, there's just an overflow of generosity, time, wanting to serve, wanting to contribute. Not that you do it out of your head or like I've got to do this. It just organically.
Hmm.
Uh, Personally, I worked with women in jail. I took some of this work and a book that I wrote into women in jail. I've
Okay.
worked at I was a victim advocate with our police department for years and years and years. So I was on call as a first responder, that I would go to incidents, kind of horrific incidents, but be there as a person that comforted, was just stood in strength for what they called a victim. They didn't like that word, but somebody that something happened to. So assaults, suicides, a lot of death. And then I, with a partner, our team, we would go with the police and the fire, and we would be there for the people to
Mm.
both tell them, what happens when the coroner comes, when can you, just the real nitty gritty practical things of crises, and also when can you get back in your home if it's a crime scene. But also we just stood with them in comfort and strength and solidarity until in the acute instance, until they got their support team, till they could call
Yeah.
their loved ones or their I did that. I've worked in a nursing home. I worked with wildlife rehab. I just always have pretty much some volunteer job in my
Mm.
community. Um,
Mm.
and it
Yeah.
not like I went around and I thought I've got to do some job in my community. No, it was just like something would call to me. You know,
Yeah.
I just thought, to be a victim's advocate, I just saw this little tiny notice in the newspaper. training for victims advocates, and it just jumped out at me, and then
Mm,
I went through the training, and then they said you get 9 free counseling sessions per incident. And I thought, oh no, what have I signed up for? They're giving me 9 counseling sessions per incident. Oh my gosh. But I just went. I didn't even know what I was signing up for. And I did it for
mm.
years. Um,
Okay.
so I just followed the call. I think everybody is, when you fill yourself up,
Yeah.
however you do that, whether it's a traditional religious practice and it fills you up, or a sacred ancient meditation practice and you fill yourself up, it just, you have so much to give,
Yeah.
so much to give, and then some way you'll be called. And maybe then you get to choose, of course, if you
Yeah.
go and follow that call. And maybe it's just that, like you were saying about the people that you've met and known that held such a beautiful energy, you just
Yeah.
wanted to be around them. I mean,
Mm.
those kind of people, I aspire to that. Maybe someday I'll be that high consciousness, I'll be that awake. But those people can just walk, and the steps they walk are holy.
Yeah, but you probably are already this kind of person for the people that you already support. It's the people that you just talked about. I can imagine that for them you can be, yeah, an inspiration just by, yeah, being in contact with them, connect with them in a certain kind of way.
Hmm.
I'm sure you got that feedback already. It's impossible not that it's not that.
Oh, they wanted me. The jail. I worked at the jail for 2 years, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I very claustrophobic, and just the clanging doors. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But they did want me to stay. They wanted me to stay so bad.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I was tough on those women. I mean, like, stop it.
Mm.
But they were getting on each other's nerves. I mean, they're in a small little. It's pretty rough, but
Yeah.
sometimes I was like, just stop it. Stop it. I mean, that was my inspiration for that day with some of them. You're causing
Mm.
trouble. Stop it. And sometimes
Yeah.
that was as spiritual as I got. But but
Yeah.
that's what they needed. But there were also some really incredibly tender times, and you do your best. And sometimes
Mm.
that's what I think. You do your best, and there are days when my best was not very good, but at least I
Yeah.
showed up for
Yeah.
people. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's as good as you get. And then sometimes, magic happens,
Yeah.
magic. And think people are really transformed, and come to a place that happened a lot as a victim's advocate for me. Not just me.
Yeah.
You always you're there with police, and you're there with firemen, and you're there with coroners, and you're there with another partner. It wasn't just me, but
Yeah.
as a group, as a team, standing in support of who's ever had an unnatural experience, whatever that
Yeah.
is, a death, a suicide, an assault, a drug overdose. Um, the team, they're just, we're 2 or more gathered. We're bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing we do in the United States. We have different, not every community has victims advocates, but a lot of them do. So that
Hmm.
people aren't alone.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because many people
Mhm.
are that have yeah, done certain crimes and things like that. They don't always get the support from family and friends in many cases. So it's I think it can be very good that at least there's someone that understands them, that listens to them, and give them that positive energy in a way, and not immediately that negative energy of getting punished for what someone has done, because there's always kind of a deeper reason that is interesting to discover or to explore with those kind of people, why they have done certain kind of things. And with your knowledge and expertise, you can look for that, and automatically you develop a certain kind of compassion in a certain way for those kind
Mhm.
of people. and not many people do that. Many people that have not done the work, it's difficult for them to go to that place because they have their own issues and their own problems, and so yeah, it's good that people like you are there to support these people for sure.
Well, I couldn't do it in and of myself when I was doing that work, but I could do it in the awareness and the awakening of the soul, of my soul and spirit, the bigger part of me, the bigger part of me. So this part, Catherine Corona, I have no idea. You know, I went through a training as a victim's advocate, but there's nothing you can be trained when somebody gets shot. I mean, you can't be trained for that. You can go through the training, which I did, but can you really? Not really. So, and they told us that. There's like, you can have all the training in the world, but there's no training for an experience like that you're going to go to. But what I could do was, with my meditation practices and my spiritual practices, I could just go into that peaceful, calm place. I could chant the name of God, the highest name, inwardly while everything else was going on. And I could just hold in that. I could hold in what was bigger than that's what does the work. It's the spirit that does the work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there something that we haven't talked about that you find important to share?
Wow, you've covered, you've hit so many questions. They've been beautiful questions. Let's see. I just would invite people, if the spirit moves them, to try a stillness practice, a spiritual exercise practice, or meditation, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to call it meditation, but just going inside in stillness and listening to yourself and listening beyond yourself. And practice that. It only takes a minute or two, but to practice that, and you'll build in the strength of that. You'll build in awareness. You'll build in the great adventure of the realms of spirit. You'll meet yourself as a soul. You'll meet yourself as a spirit. And I don't know what greater adventure there is, along with your everyday ordinary life. This is an extraordinary practice. And you marry the ordinary with the spiritual and the extraordinary, and life gets just more fun and magnificent and magical.
Yeah, that's so true. So true.
Yeah.
Are there, maybe, I don't know if it's the case, but do you have some recordings, guided meditations that people can download or listen to, or yeah? Okay, so maybe it's
Yeah.
good to then to share where people can find that, and yeah, and maybe other things that are interesting that people can have a look at.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Soulandspirit.net is a subscription program I put together. It's not expensive. It's like $19.95 a month, but I've recorded these 5 spiritual practices, and you can just let yourself be carried away with them. And they are just 5 to 7 minutes a day. I have an album of chant music and some beautiful uplifting music on Spotify, also on Apple Music, but just my name, Catherine Corona, and you'll find it. I have also catherinecorona.com on my website. You'll find a bunch of things. On soulandspirit.net, you'll find that program, but I also have my book there as an ebook called Loving Tapping Your Spiritual Self. That I brought that into the jail and worked with. It's like a workbook on developing loving. It came out of my doctoral dissertation, and that's free for you. And then there's meditations on there, and my YouTube channel, I've got tons of meditations. So all under my name. And
Yeah, I will share everything in the description. So
oh, thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
I hope people try it. try any of it and email. And you're welcome to email me. I love to hear from people, see how it's going. Um, my email address is, we can put it on your description, but it's also at soulandspirit.net.
Yeah,
And yeah, I just wish everybody a great spiritual adventure and
amazing,
all the
amazing.
benefits and all the benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Catherine, for sharing all this interesting, important information. You were really a delight here in the Awake Insight show, and I really enjoyed talking with you. And yeah, I'm sure you inspired many people. If it's at least one person, that's already a big achievement. But I think you have inspired a lot more people that are listening to this episode. So yeah, thank you very much for everything you do and for being here. And yeah, I wish you a lot of success and more impacting more lives.
Thank you, Hank.